Hi everyone, my name is David Alamillo from SimActive and welcome to today's workshop, Mapping with Drones. How quickly can you do it? We're going to walk you through a complete real-world project from drone flight to final deliverables and show you how fast, accurate mapping can be and really the right tools and workflows of what we're using today. We have two amazing guests today with us, with Marcos Bayuelo from Wingtra. Thank you very much, Marcos, for joining us. And from the SurvTech side, we have Mark Bickel. So thank you very much, Mark, for being with us. And of course, SurvTech is the team that mapped Castillo de San Marcos National Monument. So, thank you guys for being here today. And before we even get started, I want to talk about the 4 points we will be covering today. First point is choosing the right tools for mapping. Second point is planning effective data acquisition. Number 3, streamline processing for fast turnaround. And 4, which I think it's one of the most important ones, and Mark's going to give us a lot of information, is mastering photogrammetry best practices. So without further ado, let's get started with a couple of quick intros. And I'll start with you, Marcos. If you can give us a quick little intro about yourself and your role at Wingtra.
Awesome. Thanks very much for having me, David. So that's the first thing. So I'm Marcos Bayuelo, based on Zurich in the headquarters of Wingtra. I'm originally Colombian. I'm the Senior Vice President for Product and Marketing in Wingtra, and my role basically consists into going out, understanding our customers as SurvTech and working with partners as SimActive, really just trying to bring what are the latest mapping and surveying technologies into the market for aerial mapping, and just trying to understand our customers' pain point and deliver and develop the best technology to really, as the topics of today say, get accurate and fast survey grade results so our customers can really get the best data to actually do the actual extraction of the survey outputs or whatever they need on the mapping side. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you. And amazing. Yes, we've known Wingtra for quite some time, so really excited to have you here, Marcos. We had the pleasure of meeting, but again, great meeting you, and always having a Latin American party here. And we'll move on to Mark. I know you're overwhelmed today. We're missing Carlos today, actually. So I know Mark here is representing, and we've been talking a little bit before the recording. But Mark, tell us a little about yourself, where you guys are at, and again, your role at SurvTech.
Sure. So my name is Mark Bickel. I run the drone program here at SurvTech Solutions. I've been with SurvTech for a little over 5 years now. I have a heavy military background. I started flying drones in 2001 in the Army, and kind of never looked back. I transitioned out of the military and went into defense contracting. Worked for Northrop Grumman for a number of years. I spent a lot of time over in Iraq and Afghanistan flying drones. And for the last 20 some years now, that's all I've done for a profession is drones. So I was fortunate enough to come in on the kind of early age, and I've been excited to see how small UAS has kind of transitioned into the civil and civil marketplace. Using drones for surveying is something that was fairly new to me when I first started with SurvTech, but the applications that we've seen, it's just amazing how much drones have and technology have advanced the efficiency of surveying and mapping. We've got 2 Wingtra drones now. We started our first one, I think, 3.5, almost 4 years ago. Loved it so much we picked up another one because we had so much work coming in off of it. We were just having to schedule projects on top of each other, basically. So picking up the second one definitely helped us out with our ability to keep up with the demand. So at SurvTech, we're based out of Florida is our headquarters in the Tampa area. However, we do have offices in Alabama, Mississippi. We have a New Orleans office now. We even have a Puerto Rico office. But we're licensed in, I believe, 13 different states. And pretty much everything from Texas east and then up the eastern seaboard, we focus most of our work on. with the drone, division, because we are a little bit more mobile, we do travel well. I was in Guam flying. Actually, I had the Wingtra with me in Guam earlier this year, so we can pretty much travel anywhere with our drones. Sometimes the logistics can be a little challenging, but it's definitely an adventure and it's fun. So that's pretty much it for me.
No, thank you, Mark, and of course, thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it.
For sure.
My dad was in the military as well, a Marine Corps. So, yeah, come from a family military service member. So again, thank you for your service and your continued service in mapping and geospatial. You know that I think that never ends. So thank you again. And of course, you can never miss that orange drone up in the sky, Marcos. I guess you guys, you know, when I first met Wingtra a couple of years ago, that was the first thing I loved about it. You know, talking to Leo, and I told Leo, dude, you can't miss that orange thing flying in the sky. It's like a brand out there. So I love the fact that you can see it everywhere. And maybe Marcos, you can tell us a little bit more. You know, what makes the Wingtra One Gen 2 specifically just a strong fit for mapping projects, maybe to Castillo de San Marcos or other national monuments. What makes Marcos this drone like a great option for our customers out there?
Yeah. So basically, Wingtra, we have over 10 years in experience at really focusing on surveying and mapping. So what we have really tried to develop is a drone platform that really can serve our customers to, one, deliver accurate data reliable. Because we know that mapping is not about just getting data once, but also getting it reliable every time with accuracy on coordinate systems and on precision, on vertical accuracy or horizontal accuracy every time, right? So we really have worked extremely hard on that to make it explicit. So that's our first differentiator. You can't trust that it's just gonna work. It's Swiss quality, Swiss precision. It's as the Swiss watches, as we say.
Yeah,
The other part is efficiency. So we have a fixed wing VTOL, so you can't really get large areas extremely fast because we know, like, working with aerial solutions, the time window that you have to actually capture the site is always unpredictable. There is winds, there is environment, there is waivers, there is people, there is resources. There are so many different constraints that sometimes the project doesn't need to be huge, but you have like
yeah,
such a limited amount of time that we are like, we need to give our customers the solution that they can use in every project. Small projects with limited time of windows, very large projects that they can deliver faster. Really, that is our second, um, I would say, like, unique value proposition to the market for our customers.
yeah,
Third one is ease of use. We know how technology evolved throughout time. So for us was extremely important, and this is something that we have kept working on. Our solutions needs to be as easy of use as possible. So our customer doesn't need an extremely huge long ramp up time. Is one morning you understand the solution, in the afternoon you can go and get your own survey data. So now you have efficiency, ease of use, and really reliability. So you can trust that you have the peace of mind, you have the tool that is going to give you the accurate data that you need in an easier way. That's really our three value proposition for our customers. And one of the most important, we only focus on mapping and surveying. So our workflows are specifically designed for you guys out there, our customers that use it. So it's hard to also try to focus on only mapping and surveying
hmm,
while your aircraft or your drone platform is meant to do surveillance and is meant to do video and is meant to do many other different things. Then you end up with a convoluted workflow because you can do everything, but at the same time it's hard to do the simple thing that you want to do. That is like what we have tried to really come up into the market, David.
No, that's great, Marcos. Yeah, you know, I truly believe that when you take a drone that does video and does everything else, and you end up sometimes spending more time in the field trying to figure out how the drone can capture the data you wanted to capture than actually the actual survey time. Maybe I'll just add one question there, Marcos. What is a
Yeah,
typical feedback that you get from teams like SurvTech? I know Mark will tell us a little bit more about his experience with the Wingtra, but what's a typical feedback you get, when they go out and fly these missions?
yeah. I think the typical feedback is usually like, we picked your drone because somebody told us that it's the most reliable drone in the market. So basically,
That's it.
somebody tells somebody that, you're gonna do surveying, just pick up the
Yeah.
tool for the job. That is the one thing, and the other is, once our customers start using it, this goes back to, sometimes I have another tool that could do the job, but it's way too complex. So I just come back to Wingtra because it's the easiest thing I could use to get what I need to be done. So that is really the feedback with our customers, and that's why we have keep doubling down into these really aspects for our customers.
That's great, man. Yeah, and I see Mark, acknowledging that, and yeah, that's super helpful. And of course, Mark, you're actually boots on the ground, literally. So we can move into the next phase, and you're going to talk a little bit more about it, which is the field planning. When I saw you map the Castillo San Marcos, any national monument, any one of us who has actually gone in the field and had to map these, oh my God, you're like, damn, I have to do a national monument. What are the requirements? What's everything that I have to do pre-planning? This is really, really essential, to just having a successful operation. So maybe you can walk us through everything like what you did as far as the mission planning. I guess just limited access. Did you guys have a plan before going in there? Of course you did, but just walk us through that process. How was that?
Sure. So obviously with it being such a significant landmark, there's added a bit of scrutiny. Even though drones are becoming more commonplace, there's still a lot of hesitation. Um, People still tend to shy away when you want to start using drones, especially some of the bigger ones. We're a heavy lidar firm, and that was part of the problem, or part of the project was we were supposed to fly lidar over that area also. And
Okay.
we're carrying a Regal Vux one lidar sensor that the sensor itself is 12 pounds. So to have a drone that's got that lift capacity for that sensor, we're carrying, we're talking a pretty significant drone, enough to where even people who are familiar with drones stop and come over and talk to us just because they're not used to seeing something with that size. So um,
Yeah.
it's definitely a challenge when you get into some of the more interesting projects, national monuments, wildlife refuges, any places that have a lot more restrictive use when it comes to drones. The biggest thing with a lot of these projects is whoever your client is. If you're not dealing directly with the National Park Service,
Hmm.
it's always important to get the client involved as much as possible. Me as a subcontractor going in and trying to talk to the National Park Service, you know, they might not even think that I'm anybody to really deal with. So having whoever the prime contract is that's involved with it, and having them involved with helping coordinate really makes a big difference when talking with military installations is another one.
Yeah.
Just anybody off the street trying to get access to fly a drone around a military base it's a very difficult process. But if you have the client that's got the contract directly with the service or the whoever the location is that you're trying to survey, that goes a long way. So because especially with Castillo, because our client was dealing directly with National Park Service, who is the end client for the topo survey, um, that really helped us to kind of set the National Park Service's mind at ease that we weren't just some tourists out there trying to get cool pictures and not really knowing what we were doing, but that we're
Yeah.
actual professionals out here doing our job. So it did take a lot of coordination. Ultimately, the National Park Service still wasn't really comfortable with us flying the drones overhead, but
Okay.
because
Yeah.
because I mean it's a pretty historic landmark. Um,
Yes.
I think it's the oldest um, man-made landmark in North America. I think
Oh
uh,
wow.
it's I know it's the oldest fort in
Fort. Yep.
in America. So fortunately, though, the size of the actual area is fairly small. So us being able to take off and land the drones outside of the National Park Service property
Mhm.
actually helped us out because they couldn't really restrict us once that was in place.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
that was really the only rule that they gave us is they just wanted to know when we were planning on performing the flights, and they just asked that we take off and land off property. Uh, another
Got it.
thing another thing that was big was ground control points. Uh,
Okay.
obviously, they didn't want us going around spray painting anything or setting any kind of control that would be permanent markings. So
Yeah.
a lot of it that we utilized was photo identifiable points, normal features that already existed. So we were able to utilize those instead of having to go in and set ground control points also.
That's
So
great. And
as
I,
least intrusive as we could possibly be is the biggest thing.
that's the key, huh? Yeah, and I think one of the things that comes to mind is SurvTech is. I mean, you guys do aerial, you guys do a lot of stuff. Manned aircraft. Uh, why did you guys pick the Wingtra specifically for this project? Why did you guys go with Wingtra for this one?
So like you were saying earlier, there's always multiple tools for the job. So a lot of times, what we'll do is a client will come to us and tell us that they need us to map a certain area, and then we'll just take that and we'll look at the feasibility of different options. Sometimes the manned
Mhm.
option is a better option. I've got a client that has us looking into doing a 20-mile corridor up in Indiana for power lines.
Yeah.
We can do it, but between mobilization and that long of a corridor, we offer a helicopter solution. We've got a Regal sensor on one of our main platforms. So
Yeah.
um, really, for every job that we get that comes in, we take a look and we kind of determine what's best for the client. You know,
Got it.
so for this one, mobilizing an aircraft or a manned platform down to fly this small of an area really didn't have much benefit to it. Plus, with the manned aircraft, you're flying a lot higher and faster. So on the lidar aspect, your point density goes down substantially. So with
Yes.
us being able to fly lower and slower with the drones, we can really get a very detailed point cloud with the drone. So um, with CSM Marco, it was pretty obvious right off the bat that we were going to utilize the drones. And anytime we're doing any photogrammetry, we always go with the Wingtra.
Nice.
Like Marcos was saying, um, we shopped around before we got our first Wingtra. There was a couple of other fixed wing drones that we looked at, but ultimately we went with the Wingtra, and the reliability of that thing is awesome. I don't think we've had a single issue. We fly it weekly on multiple different projects. We use it full time for the Army Corps, um, and it's it's reliable and user friendly. Um, me being a longtime drone pilot, at first it was kind of intimidating because I didn't have the ability to manually take control. That that bugged me at
Yeah.
first. But you know what? I understand why they did it that way. A lot of times human error is the biggest factor in incidents. So, by taking that out and allowing you to only control it manually when it's in uh, vertical landing mode, that that's a benefit. So once we've gotten used to it and understand how reliable it is and everything, it's a no brainer for us. We like using the Wingtra. We use it as much as possible.
That's definitely what we want to hear, to the fact that you guys have two Wingtra now, and probably as operations scale, Marcos, you're gonna get a call pretty quick for that third Wingtra order. So yes, I agree completely with you, Mark. I've had experience with the Orange Drone too, and I think it's one of the superior platforms out there. And definitely, Swiss Army knife, Marcos, you mentioned it. There's really a specific technology for this type of work. So yeah, I love that. And moving into what's next after the data collection, we've been talking about reliability, quality in the data acquisition. Um, I want to step in as the part of the next round, which is processing and turnaround time. And maybe I'll again pick your brain here a little bit, Mark, and then we'll go back to Marcos. But how did the processing workflow look like for you guys? And I'll bring Correlator 3D here now into the picture. Staying efficient without sacrificing quality. So maybe you can talk a little about what after capturing the data, how did your process look like? How did the workflow look like? So Ed, just give us a quick roundup there on what happened.
Sure. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take the images, geotag them, and then we'll run them through Lightroom just to kind of mesh all the
Would be like a light correction or
yeah, it's for exposure. So
yeah.
as especially if you're dealing with a partial cloudy day,
There you go.
your exposure, and then depending upon the surface that you're looking at as well. So if like you have different, very vast contrast between items in the image, your
Yes.
exposure rating between images will vary, just because the shutter is auto shutter or auto exposure. So we'll utilize Lightroom just to go in and kind of correct all that and get everything meshed up as good as possible. And then we'll toss it into SimActive Correlator 3D. And one of the things that we really like about that is, a lot of times we'll collect LiDAR and we'll use it for use with the orthorectified surface. But say we're just doing solely a photogrammetry project, the auto-correlated surface produced or provided through SimActive works really well. We've noticed that in multiple projects that we've run. As far as the actual processing portion, I don't handle a ton of that. My team does, but yeah, that's why I wish Carlos was here. He's driving today, but he works quite a bit with SimActive and Correlator 3D. But
Yes.
I know one of the bigger things that's really helped us with SimActive and Correlator 3D as opposed to say Pix4D. Pix4D does not like water surfaces, and
There you go.
it doesn't like heavily wooded areas either. Anywhere where there's not really any kind of contrast, it has a very hard time stitching together the images. What we've found is that Correlator 3D is far superior in that aspect. Anytime we have a project that has any kind of water surface, it's hands down not even a question. We're going to throw it in Correlator 3D, just because for some reason it just has that better output, and there's no you don't have a lot of missing images and voids in those surface areas.
No, that's excellent. That really goes in with our first part of the AT process, which is our area triangulation tie point extraction. I have a specific algorithm that works really hard at extracting tie points over water. Those homogeneous surfaces, Wingtra doesn't mention capturing the raw data. Homogeneous surfaces, we really try to specialize on that. You brought something into the mix, which was LiDAR. And, Wingtra, of course, they have their LiDAR payload as well. Regal produced some amazing sensors. And you could bring, in essence, Mark, and maybe Carlos, of course, he knows about this, but bring in your LiDAR, LAS file into Correlator 3D, produce a surface from that, and that really takes away a step of generating a surface itself, generating a DSM. So we've done some tests with Wingtra where we just import their LAS file, use the photos, co-registering and the photos with your LiDAR. Boom. You completely skip a step by generating that high-res DSM. So again, that's something that you can do very efficiently.
I think that's step 3, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Hey, all right.
You got it right. You got it right. That is step 3. So yeah, indeed, we were talking about ease of use. That's something we really highlight in Correlator 3D, ease of use. We want customers to make it as simple as possible to get results. And as Wingtra, super the speed, get results fast. I think we complement that next part, with bringing in the speed and processing your data with the same quality that you guys, need to deliver to your clients. So that's excellent. And talking about ground control points, we've done many webinars on this topic. It's a never-ending topic, as you guys can imagine. But Wingtra has a PPK option as well, right, Marcos? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more.
That's what we do, yeah. Both of our drones run PPK, yeah.
Awesome. Marcos, maybe you can give us a little bit about, Wingtra's PPK option and how it benefits customers with difficult projects like this when they can't put GCPs on the ground.
Yeah. So basically what we realize across our customers is, basically to get accurate results, either like there are different type of technologies. You could use RTK, and then like if you lose connection, then you have to refly or retake things. Maybe if there is not an entry, good service. There's a lot of things that can happen once you're doing like real-time kinematics. So we decided that we needed to have a solution for our customers to go out and get really accurate geotagged images using post-processing. So they don't have to think about the infrastructure that they need to bring into the site, so they get this out of their head. The benefit with PPK is that once our customers such SurvTech and Mac can just geotag the images using PPK, they will get really, really accurate results that when imported into SimActive, now your map and your results will get really, really accurate without the need of laying out a large amount of GCPs, right? Which at the end of the day goes back to what you were saying, David, right? Time to value, time turnaround. What matters for the customer of Mark is give me my accurate survey result, my map at the end. How you get there, that's your problem, Mark, right? And Mark has to think through, like when he's deciding the solutions, he's like, okay, do I have to lay out 20 GCPs? How long will that take me? What if I cannot enter the site? Right, because now in Castillo, he cannot enter to lay out GCPs inside. And here is where all this accuracy, reliability, and PPK makes the job easier for Mark. He's like, okay, I don't have to spend 20 hours laying down GCP for a 15 minutes flight, right? And maybe I lay out all of this, I cannot even enter. So this is really the combination of having like a no infrastructure PPK solution that enables the whole value chain, right? Is Wingtra faster data capture, SimActive faster results of processing and accurate results, even in homogeneous surfaces, without like also now removing with PPK one step in the middle, like reducing the amount of GCPs that you need on the field to get really accurate results around your map. And then this is what we have really been working on, and this is how we brought it into market a couple of years ago. And by now, I think 90 to 95% of our customers use PPK solutions.
It's a lifesaver, man. It's a lifesaver. I've been on the RTK side too, and I was like, oh no, I have to rerun these with PPK now. Just to wrap up the conversation, Correlator 3D has an option for you guys, for RTK, PPK specific flights. And back to LiDAR, man, LiDAR is one of those technologies that just been, coming up and it keeps adding value. If you could not add your GCPs out in the field, you could extract GCPs from your LiDAR.
Yes. Yeah.
Technically, you import your LAS file in Correlator. There's an option to extract your GCPs. Use known features, right? Gutter, manhole, strip lines in a parking lot. So that is a great other value option, as Marcos was saying. How can we make this process even more efficient? So no, you guys have been great. Thank you so much for the great response. I think everyone's benefiting on this call, and just on this workshop, and just getting more knowledge on how they can merge these technologies and get great results. So perhaps a couple of things that I want to cover just to wrap up a little bit the call is back to Mark. Do you know what were the deliverables that your client needed in this case? What you guys had to output specifically?
So I know we were producing a surface. So they wanted a DEM surface model
Okay.
with 1 foot contours, and then also we were doing feature extraction as well, 3D feature extraction. So having the LiDAR and the photogrammetry together really assisted us quite a bit with that task. Now we did send survey crews out into the field just to capture uh, some of the areas just as additional checks. We're surveyors, we're overly attentive on accuracies and precision. So
Yeah.
even though, like you were saying with the PPK, a lot of times when we run our images through the geotagging, we get the accuracy report and it's telling us it's like 0.03 meter accuracy, and that's
Yeah.
for 99% of our jobs. And clients want like half foot um, pixel resolution. That's
Yeah.
more than enough that's needed without any GCPs at all. But coming back as surveyors, we still collect them 90% of the time. Now there are some jobs that we do where it's inaccessible 100%, and that's where the cost value comes in for sure. And then also just the reduction of the number of GCPs is the hugest benefit to us. We've got clients that do power line corridors, and
Oh, okay.
those can be very daunting when it comes to access and easement rights and all that, and laying out a ton of ground control points is just not really feasible.
Yep.
So we've got clients that specifically in the scope of work request the Wingtra just because of the PPK. But
Yep.
the another deliverable that we had for the Castillo project was underwater hydrographic topography as well. So
Oh, nice.
one of the neat things that SurvTech does is we've got so many different departments. We have a hydrographic surveying department that runs multi-beam sonar, and for those who aren't familiar, multi-beam is basically almost like LiDAR, just underwater. So it's sonar, but it's producing the same point cloud typical as what you'd receive from the LiDAR. So we're able to merge those data sets together, especially in areas that are tidally uh, uh, affected. So we'll fly a lot of it with the uplands LiDAR uh, during low tide, and then the hydrographic group will come in by boat during, or the other way around. We'll fly it during low tide, and then the hydrographic department will come in and do their underwater stuff at high tide, and then that gives us a pretty good coverage overlap between the uplands and subaqueous, and we'll just combine those data sets together for one fluid solid surface. So it's really neat once you get to see the final product. It's pretty amazing on I don't know. It's a good point to show, like when we're doing trade shows and everything. We'll have a display up, and it kind of catches everybody's eye, and they'll come over, and it's a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah, would be nice to see.
I see kids more and more interested in technology, and when you bring it to geospatial, some folks have always said, it's kind of a dying thing now because no one wants to be a surveyor. But I think when you bring the cool concepts of, this orange thing is capturing a laser, it's capturing photos, it's doing a lot of things, kids get more interested. I have, my daughters are always asking me questions about drones and stuff. And, I bring it back, every time I see a survey point on the ground, or, we're out hiking, I was like, look, this is what we captured. So
you never noticed them before either, and now I see them everywhere.
now you see them everywhere. Yeah, so you start seeing this technology more and more, and I think it's in reality, it's basically shaping the way now we collect data, and we try to make the workflows more efficient, always trying to save time, be more efficient in the field. So, you guys have been amazing. Thank you for all those insights. I think this is really helpful for folks out there who are kind of others like, should I get a fixed wing drone? I've been doing great with this little multi-rotor. And then you hear two experts here on the call talk about all the huge benefits.
Yeah.
It really is an eye opener, guys. Same with the software. I'll have to say it applies the same. I've been using this software, is like, I get kind of weird results on the water. And then you move on to something that it's dedicated to doing mapping and professional mapping, and that's Correlator 3D. So, that kind of brings us here, guys, to the end of our discussion. Again, thank you, Marcos. Thank you, Mark. You guys laid out super practical workflow. Just reminding folks out there's no live Q&A during this session, but of course, we will follow up with every single question. Feel free to put it out there in the Q&A panel. We will definitely write after the webinar. And the next part for me is actually I processed your guys' data, so I got the best data
Cool.
and the best data here collected by Mark. So I took the time to process it. I have the inside scoop, and I'll be showing you folks how the data looks, how the water looks. Let's look at that, and you just give you guys a whole picture. So before we wrap up, I just want to close out with any final messages. I'll start with you, Marcos. Anything you would want to share here with the crowd before we wrap up the session?
No, I think first than anything, thanks David for the invitation, and thanks Mark for being a trusted customer, and hopefully we're really delivering you value to you and your teams. And then in Wingtra, we really try to just keep doubling down into our efficiency, ease of use, and reliability, so our customers know that any new product we launch, any new product innovation that we are going to bring into the market is all around this. So stay tuned for sooner news that are coming. That's what I'm
Nice.
going to leave out there for the public.
Nice. Thank you, Marcos. Really appreciate it. And Mark, any closing comments here for our audience?
Sure. As a SurvTech here, we've been actively using SimActive products for 9 years now. Not only do we use it with our drones, but we have a large format camera that we use on our man platform. So we've got the UAV and medium format licenses, but we also have the large format license. So like I said, depending upon the tool, just depends upon what we're going to utilize for it. I think one of the biggest advantages with SimActive is we see how quickly it can process large amounts of data. It handles large data sets a lot better than other processing software. And also, we utilize it now with our multispectral images. We have on our Wingtra, we've got one of the MicroSense Ultim. We have the older version, the MicroSense Ultim. Instead, I think you guys are running the Red Edge now.
Yeah.
So, but it's our go-to when we're doing anything that's kind of out of the norm, or anything that's more of a challenging processing. We don't even hesitate. We go straight with SimActive for that. So, definitely between Wingtra and SimActive products, we're happy campers over here.
That's what we want to hear, right, Marcos? At the end of the day, those are the gold words for us. And thank you very much, you guys. Tell Carlos we didn't miss him. But we'll definitely I hope to have him on the next one. And of course, thank you very much, gentlemen. Hope to have you on the next one. Marcos, Mark, again, thank you very much for being here. Now let's see the full workflow in action with a live demo of the data set that SurvTech collected from Castillo de San Marcos. We'll walk through a couple of things, how everything comes together inside Correlator 3D using the actual imagery collected by SurvTech, and we'll cover image import and automatic type point generation, how quickly you can create a DSM and orthomosaic, and then finally basic quality checks and deliverable export. So as part of the process, we're going to focus first on Correlator 3D, and we're going to import our images. So let's get started. We'll go to the File section,
and we'll see that we have several options in our file section. And the first one we'll see here in file is to create a new project. I want to also highlight the fact that we have a list of modules here laid out in these icons starting from left, finishing with the workflow on the right. So the first module that we see is exactly the same one as we saw in our file section to create a new project. So we're going to follow these list of modules to create our project. As soon as we click that module, we'll be presented with a different license type. So we have in Correlator 3D, beginning with our UAV license, which is the one we're going to be using right now. But as SurvTech mentioned, we also have a medium and large format licenses, for those big sensors, and of course satellite and ADS for specific push broom sensors. In this case, let's default to UAV. We're going to import our images from camera 1. We only have one camera in our payload, so let's hit next. And we're going to add a full folder of images. Let's browse for images. Once we select our image folders, we discovered that typically you would see if the images are geotagged, you will see the list of images here on this middle box. However, since the images are not geotagged, in this case, we heard from SurvTech Wingtra that we had a PPK file, so we're going to browse for that. We're going to go up here to our three dots and go back into the file section to where our EOs are and select this file. Now, once we bring in the file, we might have to take some delimiters here. We can take off the space, and that sums everything up. Image name, lat, long, altitude. And we also have our omega phi kappa. So let's start working with that. Our position system is for lat long, so that is correct. Our orientation is set to automatic, meaning we can automatically calculate the orientation for your images. In this case, we have it in the EO file, so let's select the appropriate field, which is going to be omega phi kappa. So once we have all these elements already filled in, we're going to proceed to drop down any of these menus to select the appropriate field. So we have our image name, latitude, longitude, and our altitude. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to go into our omega phi and kappa. Once this is complete, we can simply disable the first row and hit add. Now in this case, you guys can see the software automatically populated our projection to a UTM zone based on our lat longs. But in this case, we actually know in what system we're working in the EPSG code. So Correlator allows you to input an EPSG code, which is 2236, working in NAT83 Florida East. Again, you want to match your coordinate system if you're bringing in your GCPs, or perhaps you're bringing in your LAS file also from your LiDAR system. And this all has to match, of course, to be in the same projection. So our last file is in NAT83, and our GCPs are as well. So we're going to hit OK. We're simply going to hit next. Confirming the camera parameters, hit next. And finally, assigning a project folder location. Once we do this, you guys will see the project displayed in the main window. So let's go ahead and proceed with a complete project here. Perfect. So now that we have completed our image import, this is what you guys are going to see in your welcome screen. You're going to see all your images laid out in the center of the map and all your flight lines reconstructed. If we zoom in into any of these particular flight lines, you guys see the individual images. You can right click, for example, here 250, and that will open a little preview of that specific image in that location. So we overall see we're in the right place. This is the Castillo de San Marcos, and this is the data we're going to process. I would like to highlight something really cool that I saw as a new update in Correlator 3D, which allows us to keep your AOI. Specifically the images you want to process. Sometimes you don't have the time to go into your raw folder and delete all the images you need. So this particular process allows you to go into Correlator 3D and just keep that AOI. Rule of thumb in the field, over collect, right? You never want to come with less images to the office. Rule of thumb back in the office, center in the AOI. So let's do exactly that. We're going to go to the fourth module, which is our area triangulation module. Once the area triangulation loads, we're going to go to the tool here on the right hand side, which is flight line editing. We're going to click the tool. Something a lot of folks ask me is, where is my background satellite image? It went away. Don't worry, guys. We do this on purpose to give you guys a better overview of your images and flight lines, but you can always bring that back by going into your project tree and turning on the online data. Now, you guys can see by default, we have the polygon selection tool. And this is amazing because I can focus on all the images that I need to remove by creating a hand-free polygon rather than a rectangular selection tool. So let's do exactly that. Let's go here and let's select all the images on the outer part of our project. And let's just keep Castillo de San Marcos in the center. So we're basically going to delete all those images in white and just keep our flight lines to what the Castillo de San Marcos is, just the AOI. And once we have all these selected, you can see they're also selected in your project tree. We're going to hit the image deletion button, and that will gray out all our images. So at this point, we're just going to keep all these images that are not grayed out. And that allows us to process just a subsection of the entire project, right? This is exactly what we need. To confirm, you simply click the module again, and it will confirm your selection. In this case, I am not going to apply the changes. I'm going to say no, and it's going to default back to all my images. This is a really great tool. I love it because you can just simply focus on the area you need to process. In this case, we have a total of, I believe with some images we took out, 415 images. So that's a total number of images we're going to process. And as we're talking about speed, if you're new to Correlator, how can you go in and process without knowing anything, right? You're like, well, I'm not an expert in photogrammetry, but how can I get some results out of this flight I just did? So what we're going to do is, once you clean up the data, again, this is optional, you're going to go into the first module. Remember, left to right, automated workflow. And this is the fastest way to get results, guys. If we go into the automated workflow, you'll see at the top we have our profiles, which is classic photogrammetric. If we open up and drop down this menu, you'll see an option called Fast Ortho. This option, as the name states, will give you the fastest output necessary. Again, it might not be the highest resolution, but it will give you results immediately, especially if you're out in the field. We also have an option called Quick Project Overview. And as you can see, as I select the profile, all the individual settings change. And as the name states, it will give you the fastest overview of if the project is viable or not. So you're in the field or you're back at the hotel and just need to check this really quick before you head back home. This is a great way of doing it. And it's going to produce your DSM at course, your ortho rectification at course. So you might not want to do a lot of changes here to increase time. You just want fast results. Again, if you want something a little bit more higher resolution, you would go back in the office to your classic photogrammetric and now put everything at optimal resolution. This is the fastest way to get results. And again, your company might allow you to do some QA/QC process among every single part of the settings. If you have a QA process at the end, you can do that. I typically like to do it in stages. So I always like to do it just for my AT. I believe AT is the foundation of every project, so I like to look at the AT, make sure everything is fine before I move on to the DSM and DTM. So if I'm just processing the DSM, we can hit process and that would do the trick. Now, talking about speed, let's go back to the speed and how we could speed things up a little more. Well, this is more on the expert level, but we also have an option to generate a script. And if you guys been tuning into our previous workflows and webinars, we've been talking about the scripting options in one of those. And this is really cool because you can go on a Friday afternoon, create a script, small Python script to take 2 or 3 projects, come in Monday morning and review your outputs. It's really handy, and again, it makes life easier. So talking about speed, scripting option is a great way to go. In this case, I might just process my AT and review my results for my AT. As I was talking during the call as well, you have EO adjustments. So we talked about the potential of doing RTK PPK with the Wingtra system. Other drones that support this as far as RTK as well. So you can always change your EO adjustments to RTK. In this case, if that's the setting, we simply process and we will get results for that specific part of the project. And now we were talking about, QA/QC and this stuff, and how do you do that? So if you go into your AT module, once the AT has been completed, you have your initial steps. If you deleted images, you might have your step 1 to actually see exactly what the quality report looks like. If you have GCPs, it will also give you your ground control points, your average X, Y, and RMSE error. And then go into your image type point assessment, right? So we see excellent. That's what we want to see here. Less, almost at half a pixel average projection error, so that looks really good. What we used in unconstrained, of course, we can use RTK-PPK as this data supports this as well. We use GCPs, and that's the reason we went unconstrained. And then finally, the image movement based on our GCP. So quite a big adjustment there on C, but that looks really good. That being said, then the solution looks great. What we're going to move on into the next step. So our AT is done. Can we go back to the automated workflow talking about speed? Absolutely. Let's go back into this module. We did the AT, we turned this guy off, and we go on for DSM generation at optimal resolution. We don't need a point cloud, so we're going to turn it off and do the DTM, ortho, and mosaic creation on. So this is basically the rest of the workflow, and we can process it. You guys can see, even though we're doing it in steps and doing a QA/QC stop for our AT, we can continue with the rest of the process being fully automated. And that's something that I really like. Now, once we're done with the process, you might want to turn on the outputs. In this case, how does the DSM look like? So let's go ahead and turn on our DSM. And that looks pretty good. It's a very nice DSM. Again, you have the option to edit this DSM. You can crop it to the extent you need. If we were just doing the Castillo de San Marcos, you can crop it to this specific area, and the software will only ortho-rectify what's inside your DSM. So it won't go past that boundary. Your boundary is your DSM. The next part of it is, how long did it take to run this DSM? Well, specifically, I was timing it, and it took 19 minutes to run our DSM using the 415 images. So that's a pretty a nice amount of time for a project this big, you know, especially given the area. So 19 minutes so far. If we move on into the next step, what would we do next is ortho rectification and then our mosaic creation. So let's take a look at our mosaic creation and what we completed here as far as the ortho mosaic. Turn on our outputs. We're going to turn on our mosaic and zoom into that particular area where we have our Castillo de San Marcos. So let's go ahead and zoom in into our output. And we're going to see that our water features are very well reconstructed there on the shoreline. So that looks really good. Let's go and move up a little bit more and see a little more of the coastline here on the top, which looks very well reconstructed. No holes on the mosaic, looks very well. And this is what we want to see for a typical processing time. So for output of a DSM and our mosaic, how long did it take? Well, the total processing time was 38 minutes. So from data processing, you know, from our AT all the way down to our mosaic, the total processing time was 38. In 40 minutes, you guys can complete a map with, in this case, Wingtra 1, Wingtra 2 data, specifically the RX1, R2 sensor. That is a very speedy output. And this is one of the things that we touched base during the webinar is how can you get great results, quality results like you're seeing right here, and at the same time keeping, you know, those speeds and processing times at max. So there's some things you might want to do as basic quality checks. You might use a point cloud, yes or no. You might need a 3D model, yes or no. These are sometimes optional to what we need to do. Again, in this case, if we need to run our point cloud, we can always do it as a secondary step. So if you forgot to run it, you can go into the DSM generation stage, and then the software will go into that process of give you the two options of generating a DSM and generating a point cloud with a true ortho optimized DSM. So that's very important to note. Now, additionally, if you need a 3D model, you can actually do that. So if you go into the 3D model generation, you can use your loaded DSM, your loaded 3D model, or even better, you can use whatever point cloud you have loaded as well. So the software gives you a couple of options as input for your 3D model. And finally, if you guys need to review that 3D model, we can certainly do that and review really quick our 3D model here. Loading up your 3D model. I mean, you can actually see a little bit of the features that we mapped. And again, it might be just the AOI that you need. You don't need all the rest of the area here, and you can simply crop it to that AOI and process your 3D model for that area. Same applies with your point cloud. If your point cloud, you need to filter it. You need to filter in certain points in your point cloud. You can certainly do that. And the software will filter based on elevation, based on area. It's very important to note, all these outputs were produced in less than an hour. So you can definitely deliver results for a project within a day and, basically go through the process of importing your data and outputting all your specific outputs that you need. Now, in this case, we're just going to turn off our 3D model for 1 second and we can focus on our point cloud. So this is a little bit of what we can do as far as generating our outputs. So whatever we need as inputs and outputs. In this case, let's turn off the mosaic as well and our DSM so we can focus on the point cloud. If you guys have any questions, we have several channels where you guys can go through. Most important is our support portal. Please don't feel shy to reach out to us via our support portal, create a ticket. For all you guys asking questions, we'll be more than happy to answer those. So you'll receive an email directly from us. And again, that's really a wrap for today. And thank you very much, guys, for your time. We appreciate it. Bye.